G'day, Stu here from UAV Futures, and today something that I wish that I knew when I first started the hobby, and what we're going to be looking at today is how to get up to 6 pilots in the air all doing FPV at the same time, because I know there's a lot of confusion out there. There's a whole bunch of different things, especially when you're looking at like the VTX channels and all that sort of junk. So pretty much what this is a guide for all you pilots out there who want to find out how you can fly with up to 6 people, all have relatively decent video and have a good FPV experience when you're all flying around together at the same time. Because if you're anything like me and you're absolutely quadcopter and FPV obsessed, you know that there's nothing better than flying around, especially when there's other people that you can fly around with as well. It just adds another element. It is so much fun, and maybe with this information you'll be able to start doing some of your own races at your own clubs and things like that. So that's what this whole video is aimed about. I'm going to be talking about the best 6 channels that you can use for 6 FPV pilots, and also some other little tips and tricks to making sure that everybody has the clearest video possible. Anyway, enough rambling, let's jump right in, and the first thing we're going to look at is I'm going to be showing you the best 6 channels that you can fly with. Alrighty, now for this to work, you're going to need access to the E bands and also the Fat Shark band. So if you're just using one of the, look, this probably isn't going to be too many people, but there is some people out there who only have like maybe just a Fat Shark transmitter or something like that. Some of the really old ones, that's not going to be possible when it's only transmitting up to 8 channels. So what we're looking at is, I guess, something that you probably look at your transmitter and, oh, I can probably take this one right out actually, I don't think it's plugged in. Yeah, you're probably going to be looking at your little VTX and it'll say something like, this one's a 48 channel little VTX right here. So that's what you're looking for, either a 40 channel or a 48 channel VTX. They're the sort of VTXs that you're going to be needing. Now, regarding the actual channels themselves, you make sure you have access to your little dip switches here. So whether it be dip switches, whether it's some of them have a press button and some of them have little LEDs, well, regardless of whatever it is, make sure that you can research and find out exactly how you change your channels and how to find out what one that those switches are actually going to be on. So make sure you have like maybe a little chart so you can find out exactly what channel you can put your VTX on. Alrighty, so let's jump in to the 6 channels that you need. So these are the 6 that I found work best for me. So they are going to be, I'm going to flash a little something on the screen here so you can see. And it's just a very, very simple little table. So that's going to be channel E4, which is frequency 5645, E2, which is 5685, F2, which is 5470, F4, which is 5800, F7, which is 5860, and E6, which is 5905. And you can see that's pretty much that sort of spaced right throughout the band at some fairly big distances apart. There's not going to be too many harmonics in there as well, which means the channels shouldn't be overlapping or they shouldn't be sort of interfering with each other too much. So that's going to be the best 6 channels. So what I really recommend people do, if you're getting a lot of your crew together, make a little table like this. I'm going to leave a little Google Doc linked in the description below, so you guys should be able to click on that, copy that over to your own sort of thing and use that. But hopefully they're the best 6 channels that you should all be flying together. Now if you're flying with, say, maybe only 3 pilots or 4 pilots, see if you can leave a gap between them, because that's going to improve your reception even better. So maybe if you're using E2, F2, and then you want to leave F4 out and then use F7 and F6 for those pilots, pretty much the best way, try to leave as much space as you can. If you're only using 3 people, don't cram them all in the same end of the band in that sort of E4, E2 and F2, spread it right out. But this is all about a 6 pilot guide, so if you need to use 6, they're the best 6 channels that you can use. Alrighty, so now that we've got our channels sorted, I'm going to give you guys some little tips, I guess, that are going to help you a lot when you're flying around. Number 1, don't be using 600 milliwatts or anything. Definitely check what's legal in your country, and I'm just talking internationally. I guess I'm going to be giving this advice to anybody, but definitely check what's legal in your country. And if, for example, you're using 600 milliwatts, that's just going to be bleeding all over the place and causing a heap of interference. So don't be using 600 milliwatts. The best results that you can get are using 25 milliwatts. That's probably where you're going to get the best reception, the least amount of bleed and all that sort of thing. So that's another thing that you can do. But I also know I've seen some people doing this on 200 milliwatts. So it's also fine to do this on 200 milliwatts. So just whatever you do, don't use 600, because that's going to make things very, very difficult for anybody. So this is sort of like a 200 milliwatt or less power strength on your VTX. Now, it's also really important to mention that everybody should be using the same strength VTX. So if someone's flying on 200, you should all be flying on 200. And if someone's flying on 25, you should all be flying on 25. So that's something you need to check. You all need to be on the same power level on your VTX as well. Rightio, so tip number 2, what I'm going to tell everybody out there, ground that audio. So some people on their little quads have a little microphone and they plug in some volume and they can hear their motors spinning up and that sort of stuff. I'm telling you, if it's absolutely not essential to you and you can fly without it, you should be doing that, because that's going to, look, it might not be better for, I guess, in like performance racing or something where you might really need to hear your motors in trying to get that edge. But for flying around just with your friends, ground that audio. It's going to make for such a better flying experience for everybody out there, because I think the idea behind that is that's just extra information that your VTX has to spit out. It's going to be bleeding over a little bit more. It's taking up more bandwidth, and it's pretty much, yeah, just more information in the air, and that's going to cause some more overlap and more interference to the other channels. So we're trying to send out as little information as possible, as cleanly as possible, so everybody can have the best possible reception as they're flying around. Alrighty, now the next thing you can do, I guess this is tip up to number 3 or 4, whatever. Okay, the next tip, and this one's pretty standard, and I think a lot of people do this. Make sure you're using a little diversity module in your goggles or whatever you're using. If you're not, look, it's not going to stop anyone else from flying, but you might find by doing this, you're going to improve your video. So when maybe put on like a little patch antenna and a little sort of circular polarized antenna like this. So when this is up, you can focus your patch in the main direction that you're going to be flying, especially if there's some far away parts or some thick scrub. And then you can use the other antenna when it's a little bit closer, or maybe if it's not in that patch beam. So that's a big little tip right there that you can use to improve your actual video feed. Righty, and then moving on to let's just say tip number 5, for getting the clear video for everybody. That's all about track placement. Now, most people, when they go and they set up to fly, they seem to camp. I don't know how I should actually get a piece of paper and draw this out. So hang on 1 second. I'm going to go off, draw a little map, and then come back. Alright, so I'm back here with my cartographer's map. You know, I can tell I did cartography in uni. Is that even how you say it? Anyway, it's very, very accurate, but you can see I've got 2 placements, and this is all about where are you going to sit, where is your crew going to sit when you're actually flying, because if you're like me, when I first started out, this is probably where we'd sit. So just here on little spot number A, you can see it's very close to the track, you know, and if you crash, I used to sit the place where I'm going to probably be crashing the most, because I was too lazy to go over and pick up my gear. But if you're here and you've got a lot of time that you're going to have maybe an opposition's quad or someone else's quad flying around very near you, maybe pumping out a little bit over your signal and causing a lot of bleed into your channel. So my recommendation is move yourself away as far as you can with everybody else and have your crew sit up somewhere here, like little B over here. You're going to have a much better part, especially if you've got your helical on. You're going to have a much better signal strength across all of here. If another pilot's coming across here and they're bleeding over into your channel just a little bit, it's not going to bleed over, because that tiny little bleed has a lot further to go and there's a lot more distance between it, I guess, the quad itself and you. So that's another big tip. If you can, move yourself as far away and sort of to the short side of the course, something like this, as far away as possible. And then let's move on. This is probably our final tip. Are we up to number 6? Number 6, if you can get some left hand and right hand polarized antennas and alternate. So if E2 is right hand, E4 should be left hand. So, and just alternate all the way up that chart. But I understand that's a little bit more money, and not everybody wants to invest in a whole set of another antennas. But if there's 6 of you who are really into it, and they're the only 6 that ever fly together, you're going to get a lot better video by flying around that way as well. And make sure that also goes for the quad that's on your antenna. So a little whip like this isn't going to help too much. But if you put a left hand and a right hand polarized and you match your quad's polarization with your goggles, it's also going to make your day a lot better, and for everybody else out there as well. Anyway, hopefully you guys like that, because I know that's something that a lot of people struggle with, is how to get more pilots up in the air without too much interference. So just a quick recap, stick it on those 6 channels. That's the most important part that I can stress, and I'll leave a link down to the Google Doc so you can check again exactly what those channels are. Make sure you're using a patch antenna. Don't use anything stronger than 200 milliwatts. Think about your track placement, where you're going to be sitting in the track, and then so don't sit too close to the track. Remove yourself. Make sure you're sitting on the I guess the short side, a little distance away. And if you can, switch to some left hand and right hand polarized. But yeah, hopefully you guys like that, because I know that that's something that I struggled with for a long time, trying to find a system to get as many pilots as you can in the air at the same time, because nothing beats flying around when there's up to another 5 pilots on the field, and it's just awesome, and having everybody zoom past each other, it is a ton of fun. Heaps of crashes too. And I do want to mention too that, look, every VTX I'm going to say is a little bit dirtier or clean. That sounds a bit weird, but every VTX has, I guess, how good it spits out its signals. Some bleed over a lot more than others, so that's just maybe a little bit of trial and error. And it's not going to be perfect, because those channels do bleed over a little bit, but it is going to be flyable. So you might have sometimes when you think, gee, Stuart, what are you talking about? Those channels don't work at all, but I guarantee you're going to have a lot more success with using these systems and these channels than if you were trying to figure out just 6 of your own channels and all these other parts. There's been a lot of, I guess, trial and error trying to find these channels and emailing people and finding the best ones. And they work for me anyway, so I do know that they work. Anyway, enough rambling from me. If you found this video useful, definitely hit that like button, because that's one of the best things you can do to help UAV Futures grow. But other than that, subscribe for more FPV related content, and as always, happy flying. Alrighty, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. Definitely subscribe if you're new to the channel and check out these videos. And I'm also going to leave a little link here to my Patreon page, because I've got some fantastic Patreon supporters and I like to give back to them as well. So if you want to join the UAV Futures family, there's things like bonus Velcro straps, little bundles of FPV goodies and things like that that also get sent out. Anyway, happy flying.